Good evening, Belize, and welcome to XTV's news broadcast for Tuesday, January 7th, 2025. Making the headlines tonight, Guatemalan fishers attempt to intimidate Ranger Patrol. Additional measures introduced to improve compliance with supplies control regulations. Police Minister believes police were not involved in Joshua Hall's murder. And tenure of U.S. Ambassador Michelle Kwan comes to an end. We take our first break and return with the news in detail. Welcome back with your news. I am Drea Espinosa. Fishers believed to be Guatemalans attempted to intimidate a ranger patrol for the Toledo Institute for Development and Environment TIDE on Monday morning. Executive Director Leonardo Chavarria shared that Coast Guard officers were extracting illegal gill nets that had been set in the Cayman Crown area of the Sapodilla Keys Marine Reserve when a ranger patrol with 2 rangers and 2 Coast Guard seamen arrived on scene just a few kilometers from the border line. He picks up the narrative from there.
So the Coast Guard team had encountered all of these gill nets, totaling about 9, and they were in the process of extracting this when our team reached the area where they were working. And while they were extracting these gill nets, they started observing that there was a vessel lurking about 800 meters away. So the Coast Guard team that was initially there decided to request from our team to kindly go and identify what was the real purpose of that other vessel. While our team moved towards the vessel started speeding off towards the Guatemalan border, and our vessel was basically following them. But upon reaching the line that we know as the borderline, our vessel decided that, you know what, at this point it's best that we return back into Belizean, what we know as our Belizean waters. So we didn't cross that line towards in other words, approaching the Guatemalan area. But the Guatemalan vessels went across to the Guatemalan border, and then 2 other vessels joined the Guatemalan vessel, and then they decided, no, instead of them being chased, they decided that they will pursue our vessel. And that's when they started coming across into Belizean waters and chasing our vessels, the three vessels. So our team had no choice but start to move and mobilize more into Belizean waters. At this point, the alleged Guatemalan vessels, because we are not certain if they are Guatemalans, we are only assuming because of that's the Guatemalan border area. Shots were fired in the air, about 10 shots, and our team had at that point had to take cover and try to reach more into Belizean territory as possible. And then the vessels, upon identifying that now they were in Belizean waters, they decided to stop, turn around, and then went back towards the Guatemalan coastline and the borderline.
Chavarria explained that around this time of year, this illegal activity increases, but it had never gotten to this level of warning shots being fired.
This area of Cayman Crown Reef is a hot spot for this type of activity. It involves a lot of illegal fishing and the use of illegal fishing gear, especially around this time, which we know is the fish spawning aggregation season, which begins in December and runs out through to June every year. So this is the time when these species are reproducing, and then they capitalize on this by setting these gill nets and these illicit destructive fishing gears. So we ramp up our patrols also, and hence the reason why during this time we normally encounter this type of activity. This has happened before, but it has not reached, well, from the time TIDE has assumed co-management, it has not reached to the point where shots have been fired like this. So it shows that it is a dangerous situation, as these gill nets could run anywhere from $800 and above for one gill net. So yesterday we pulled up 9 gill nets and more were still left in the water, and we had to return today to remove more gill nets that were in that area. So it shows that, I mean, it's a big loss, although these are illicit fishing gears, and people will naturally try to protect what they consider their property.
Does it deter you all in your work going forward? Like, how do you foresee you will proceed? Like, can you get more Coast Guard? Like, I don't know how you deal with that situation.
Well, the support that we have from the Coast Guard has been phenomenal. We never conduct patrols in that area without Coast Guard presence. As you may know, TIDE Rangers do not carry arms. So whenever we go on these types of patrols, we depend heavily on the presence of Coast Guard personnel who are the armed forces. And this will not deter us from conducting enforcement initiatives in the area, because we know that we have assumed co-management officially since 2024, and we have taken up full co-management since April 15th of the entire Zapadilla Keys Marine Reserve, which we know as Belizean territory. So we have the mandate to protect the fishery resources in this area, and these type of activities will not deter us, especially during fish spawning aggregation season, when we know that we need to protect these fish spawning aggregation sites.
As we shared as part of our extensive reporting on the gillnet ban of November 2020, the area of the Sarstoon is no longer a gillnet hotspot. As it appears, illegal fishers are setting their gear further away from the areas patrolled by our rangers.
I can only speak specifically about the areas that we co-manage, right? So the areas that occur on the borderline or outside of the protected area, we know that there is a lot of illegal activity occurring in these places. We know that gill nets have been found routinely. We know that almost on a weekly basis, some of our concerned citizens and fishers have been pulling up these gill nets. I mean, if you have seen footage from PGTV, you would have seen that on several occasions, local residents who work along with Tide closely have been pulling up these gill nets and other illicit fishing gear, such as long lines. As a matter of fact, yesterday, it wasn't only gill nets that we pulled up, we also pulled up long lines. So what is happening outside of the boundaries of the protected area, I mean, it's just probably 10 times what is occurring within the protected area. So we really need to ramp up and try to, as best as possible, see how we could deal with the situation if we really want to protect our fishery resources.
The commandant of the Belize Coast Guard, Rear Admiral Elton Bennett, fully expects that the now ramped up activity may continue.
They will. They will. Listen, there's a reason why the Coast Guard patrols that area. There's a reason why Tide is interested in that area as well. Will they return? Of course they will. Will the Guatemalan Navy come at some point? Yes, they will. But we have a responsibility to ensure that we patrol our sea spaces, and we will come across these incidents, these illegal vessels in our sea spaces, and we will have to address those. So yes, we do expect that illicit activities will attempt to encroach in our sea spaces.
The Supplies Control Unit in the Ministry of Agriculture, Food Security and Enterprise today informed that it introduced additional measures to improve compliance with price control regulations. In the case of San Pedro, where violations were found to be rampant, the unit is partnering with Nemo San Pedro to train designated persons to identify violations and issue tickets, especially during times of emergency. In the case of Belmopan, the unit has engaged with City Council, to whom violators will be reported as the Trade Licensing Authority. Additional personnel is being obtained for Orange Walk and Independence, where regional offices will be opened. Finally, the unit will now expand its surveillance activities to the wholesale segment of the distribution chain. A list has been provided of the most recent stores to be ticketed for offenses like failing to display the price for a controlled good and having items at prices higher than the control price. The body of 20-year-old Joshua Hall was discovered on December 29 in the Dominguez layout of Corozal Town. Hall's family alleged that police were involved in his murder, as he went missing right after signing in at the Corozal police station as part of his bail conditions. On December 30th, Northern Regional Commander Senior Superintendent Chris Noble did acknowledge that the family had made complaints and said they will work with them, but he did not address the accusations with the media. This week, Police Minister Honorable Kareem Musa called the allegations unfounded.
I believe that matter is still under investigation. I think it is now with the Professional Standards Branch. I believe certain information was provided to police in terms of who might have had an issue with Joshua Hall, and so the police are investigating that angle, as well as allegations, even though they might not be founded, well-founded allegations. We still have to look at it because it's a concern raised by the family in terms of police involvement. I personally don't believe there's any police involvement, but at the same time, we cannot leave any stone unturned.
A farewell has been organized for United States Ambassador to Belize, Michelle Kwan, on January 14th. She demits office this month after serving in Belize since October 7, 2022. Apart from being the most decorated Olympic figure skater in the U.S., Kwan is a longtime Democratic activist. Given that ambassadorial appointments are considered political appointments and she was appointed during the Biden administration, her departure coincides with the inauguration of Donald Trump as U.S. President on January 20. Prior to Ambassador Kwan's designation, there had been no U.S. ambassador to Belize for over 5 years, given that during his first term starting in 2017, the Trump administration did not designate an ambassador to Belize. After the break, Shine Barrow UDP says it has its Belize district candidates. Stay with us.
Freetown Drugstore, telephone 223-2876.
Currently, the Transport Department relies on police officers to accompany their personnel when night patrols are conducted. On Monday, Honorable Kareem Musa was asked for his thoughts on the practice. Musa explained that the collaboration is expected to continue.
We work together. As you know, it's very dangerous for many of the transport officers. Some of them are not armed to be on the highway, and if you do come across an intoxicated driver or even a criminal-minded driver who may be armed himself or herself, it is important to have a police guard with them. We have offered our full support and assistance to the Department of Transport. There are night checkpoints where the police go out. So whenever it is that the Department of Transport calls upon our department, we offer our services.
The Shine Barrow UDP is reporting it has secured a full slate of general election candidates for the Belize District, including the 10 for Belize City and those for Belize Rural South, Belize Rural Central, and Belize Rural North. UDP leader Moses Shine Barrow today reported there was a meeting with the regional leader and the Eastern Region standard bearers. 11 people are pictured in the photograph. Reports are that Barrow has chosen to pit Jose Espat against Honorable Tracy Panton in the Albert Division. He is also fielding someone against Honorable Patrick Faber in Collett. Barrow's attorney has also indicated they would be agreeable to mediation with the Tracy Panton UDP. However, he says there has to be genuine intentions and he is not seeing this from the other side. The Philip S. W. Golson International Airport, PGIA, or Belize as it is known in the aviation world, is becoming more popular as more and more flights are being scheduled due to Belize's rise as a tourism destination. Of late, weekend days are seeing over 20 flights per day. With the increased popularity and upcoming expansion, many have questioned why there isn't a police presence at the airport, especially following the recent attempted burglary at the terminal cargo warehouse. Police Minister Honorable Kareem Musa responded to that suggestion.
Well, the airport is managed by a private company, and so the private company does have security guards at the Philip Golson Airport. Some of them are armed. I've seen some of the officers armed, but maybe it might be time for them to look at the angle of also having police officers stationed at the PGIA.
The Joint Intelligence Operations Center, JIOC, is composed of members of the BDF, Coast Guard, Police Department, Customs Department, and the Immigration Department. One of the major functions of JIOC is to track suspected drug planes from South America. However, as was the case in the recent drug plane landing near Franks Eddy in Cayo, they don't always get information beforehand. Honorable Kareem Musa spoke more on such cases.
JIOC is currently headed by the Belize Defense Force. We do have a police officer there, and that is the unit that we rely on. The police department relies on to get information of any illicit aircraft that might have left South America, and from that point we can track it coming into our airspace or the region's airspace. And so that is the unit that is responsible for that. Sometimes they don't get the track, and sometimes the track does not come out, and certainly we have to look at that to see what the issue might have been.
After the break, a Vital Statistics unit to close for 2 weeks of training to transition to digitization. Stay tuned.
Marlon Castillo Quality Meats.
The Attorney General's ministry, under which the Vital Statistics Unit falls, has been indicating for some time that it is moving to digitize the services at the unit. On Monday, it was announced that this month the staff of the Corozal, Belize City, San Ignacio, and Punta Gorda offices of the Vital Statistic Unit will take 2 weeks off to attend a training, quote, for the upcoming digitization project, end quote. Those offices will therefore be closed from January 13 to January 24. The VSU is one of the government offices most visited by members of the public, and the expectation is that once the digitization occurs, people should be able to apply for documents online. In April of 2024, the VSU received 440,000 Belize dollars worth of IT hardware to support the digital transformation. No date has been announced as yet for when the transition will happen. For the first time, sentencing guidelines are in effect for the Belize senior courts. The guidelines were gazetted on January 2nd and were developed as part of the Senior Courts of Belize 3-year strategic plan and recommendations from the Criminal Justice Board. On December 4, 2023, Chief Justice Louise Esther Blenman established and led a sentencing guidelines committee. Recommendations were received as well from an advisory committee comprising distinguished Commonwealth jurists. Including in the sentencing guidelines committee were registrars, magistrates, judicial assistants, and attorneys from both the public and private bar in Belize. The ultimate goal of the sentencing guidelines is to provide clear and structured guidance on sentencing to judicial officers, magistrates, and attorneys. 57 physical therapy internship students from universities in the U.S. are in Belize this week to offer physical therapy services to members of Help Age. The partnership has been in place for a few years now, and both the students and senior citizens benefit from the services offered both at Help Age and via home visits. Physical therapist Pam Unger spoke of the program and the benefits for both the patients and students.
Particularly Alvernia University, I know Bellarmine and Misericordia and Pitt all have a mission within the university to help the underserved. And so we have to give credit to Dr. Robin Zappin and Dr. Carrie Hawkins, who started this work down here and really looked at what can we bring to the Belizean people about rehab services, physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy, and how can we give them something that they can use and sustain once we leave, whether it's exercises, whether it's even a better way of communicating if they have some difficulty with communication. In the case of speech therapy, even, can we teach them how to swallow better, after some conditions that limit their ability to swallow. So we do it all aimed at improving their function and improving their quality of life, but we're doing it by training them and by training their caregivers. So what the students get, in all honesty, is a life-changing experience. We always have a sharing circle, our last night in Belize, and the stories they tell bring tears to our eyes about the Belizean people they've met, the impact they had on just changing one or two things around of what a patient was doing or how they were standing or sitting up. Or when we go into home visits, moving around furniture, which just makes it safer and easier. And those are life-changing moments to a student who's very impressionable. The students we bring with us are pretty much all in the last part of their internships of their career before they sit for their licensing boards. And so to work with the faculty, to be able to see how this all works is just a tremendous experience. As a matter of fact, this year we had to turn away some alumni who said, "Can we please come again?" Because they were so enamored with the experience we have when we're down here. And the Belizean people are just so very generous and so very thankful for everything we do, which makes it all that more enjoyable.
Students from Bellarmine University, Alvernia University, and Pittsburgh University spoke of the experience and what they've learned from it thus far.
Yeah, so physical therapy, we like to help individuals with their functionality. So say if someone has a problem with walking, we can help them learn how to walk better and also improve their quality of life. So say if someone's been sitting for a long time, how can we help them as physical therapists give them a better quality of life? How can we help them to use their arms better when they're sitting in their wheelchair? How can we help them propel with their arms better so they can get to be where they need to be and be more individualized in their lives?
Yeah, so this just gives us a really good chance towards the end of our schooling to put everything that we've learned to this point into practice with real people who need our help, and it gives us a chance to give back to what we've learned so far and just do everything that Tori had mentioned in giving people their independence, their functional independence back, and it helps us just get an immense amount of exposure to working with different kinds of patients and with different needs.
I think you have to be really self-aware and aware that you're entering a different culture and utilizing that in your treatments. Something else that we have to do is kind of switch our mindset. In America, we'll see our clients for months or years at a time, and here we want to make sure that we're really providing care that's sustainable to them and going to be making a really big impact on their daily lives.
And a pair of Uruguayan tourists were robbed in Belize City on Sunday evening. Sometime around 5:30 p.m., 50-year-old Florencia Silveria and 44-year-old Adriana Rodriguez were walking behind Anglican Cathedral College on Regent Street when two men with their faces covered intercepted them and robbed them of their purses that contained their passports, credit cards, and cell phones. Quick police work led to the recovery of their passports and identification cards. Two men are detained. And with that, we have come to the end of our newscast. The repeat can be viewed on this station later tonight at 9 and again tomorrow at midday. Join us again tomorrow for another news broadcast. I am Drea Espinosa. Have a safe and enjoyable evening.